You know, it started with the Beatles for me. Beatles are always number one. And actually, you're in luck because
It works.
it stays up.
Wow.
Because over time, there's a spring in here.
Okay.
And over time, they just get tired, right?
Sure.
Maybe slightly, but it looks to be okay. Here's one.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Sounds great now. 31 years. No, I was at Antique World in Clarence for 25 years. Every Saturday I put about 200 new records. And before I put them out, when the doors open at 11, there's people waiting to come in usually. If I get a metal collection, I've had more than 20 people wait. Metal is like the thing. And then later on that afternoon, I post those all to my Facebook store page. So people that can't come in, whether they're out, they're living in another city or whatever. Well, I tend to listen to songs more. Like when I think of something I really want to hear, it's a song, thing that puts me in a certain mood. If I want to get cranked up, or Saturday morning, like when I come in, I usually play a song just to get a vibe going in the store. And I have a certain playlist of songs, but I have certain songs that are nostalgic. For if I want to get, and sometimes I want to be like nostalgic and think about a girl I was involved with, and a song that reminds me of her. It started with the Beatles for me. Beatles are always number one. I love everything, and I love all kinds of music, There's certain things I don't, like most modern country, I don't care for. Rap, I'm not big on, although there's some classic stuff I like. You mean concerts or record shows? Oh, I started going when I was pretty young to the Memorial Auditorium. I've been to shows in Rochester. Last year I went to King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard in Rochester. A couple years before that, Brian Wilson at Kodak. Saw a lot of classic concerts at the Memorial Auditorium. Well, my first couple concerts there, I'll always remember. But in 1975, I saw 3 big shows there: the Stones, the Allman Brothers, and the Who with Keith Moon still in the band. And so that kind of stands out. In 73, when I was like 16 or 17, probably 17. That's like a legendary show. Mott the Hoople was the headliner, but it's kind of like glam rock. Mott the Hoople was glam rock. New York Dolls were glammy, but they were really more like, almost like punk. And Aerosmith opened on their first tour. And the legend is that everybody who was at that show later on formed a punk, all the punk bands in Buffalo that came out later, we all went to that show when we were kids and saw the New York Dolls and said, wow, I think I could do that. Because they weren't really great music, or
Yes.
They were drunk and sloppy and made a lot of mistakes and stumbled around, and were like, I think I could do that. So.
Did you join a band?
Yeah, I had a few. I played guitar, like a record company executive would wear. It's not rock and roll really so much. But this is all local stuff too. Local venue, the Century Theater, legendary. That's the Odd. It's a local college show. Another odd show. Mostly Beatle-related, 3 bands that were on Apple Records. Mm-hmm. So, and these are all kind of a number of local interesting shows. So anyway, when I started, it was easy to get into the used record business because people were just giving them away. Things were cheaper all the way around back then, but especially records because nobody really wanted them, except a very small number of collectors.
When everything went to CD and digital, how did you weather? Okay, so
when I started, they stopped making records in 1990. Stopped making records. It's like the perceived, that's the perspective most people have, but that's not really accurate.
Right.
The majors stopped making records.
Sure.
So like when the 9 Inch Nails album that came out in 1990 came out, in the past it would have been made in like 3 different pressing plants in the USA to meet the demand, as well as the European copy would be made, maybe some in Germany, some in England. They would be pressed in Japan for all the different markets. And each record company would have its own spin. Maybe they would have an extra track or something, or a different catalog number, slightly different cover. By 1990, they were making so little that they they only pressed them at one plant in the whole world. Like I just sold a Neil Young album. It was only pressed in one plant to meet the demand for the whole world. And they brought those in, and because radio station like this, the promotion man knew that a lot of the radio guys still were like nostalgic for vinyl, so they would use those as promos. They would get some of the German copies, stamp them for promotional use only, and give them to the DJs here. But the only copies that made it here were either given away as promos, or else you had to go to your local store and they would order it, and it would be an import. They would get it as an import. It would be very expensive. So that happened in 1990. I started in 1992. So really spring of 93, I guess you could say I started, when records were dead. But in reality, they never stopped making them for the punk market, for the metal market. Like it was more of an underground thing. Bands it was cheaper for them to get it pressed on vinyl than CD. At that time, CDs were very expensive. CDs were like $16.99 in 1987. When they came out in 86, they were super expensive. By 89, they came down a little, but they were still like $14-15 in those dollars, which would mean like $30-35. So it's kind of flipped around because vinyl was super cheap now, and new vinyl now is like $30. Not here, because I keep prices low on it. I do. Walmart price? I don't know if it's a Walmart price or whatever. Target or whatever it is, like $48.
Wow.
44 here, but well, it's a long story, but the real short version is I was at like a place in my life where certain things had happened, and I wasn't working at that time, and I was trying to not work for a while, trying to like, get some shit together, and I was trying some jobs, but nothing was really panning out too well. And in the middle of that, a friend of mine said he was doing a record show. I still had him in my car, and a couple days later, this lady, a friend of mine, said, "Why don't you come out to Antique World and set up with me? I have a table outside." So somebody came by and said, "Hey, you like records? You want to buy mine? I have 2 crates here." And I said, "Okay." So now I had 3 crates. So I came back the next week, and she said, "You can get your own table if you want. It's only $25 or something." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I got a table. And I did the rest of that summer. Like I never took a break. Every week after that, I sold. And then at the end of the summer, it was getting cold, and people were coming less. And I'm like, well, so I guess this, the season's over. And she said, no, you can go inside and get a space. It's the same, like basically the same cost inside. So I went inside, and I just stayed there. And then after a couple of years, I had added 2 more spaces. And then I got up to about 5. And then for probably 15 years, I had 5 spaces inside. The point for me is that I never made a conscious decision that this is what I'm going to do. I just wasn't doing anything else, and I started doing it, and ever since then, I've never done anything else. Well, you can get philosophical. Those people that open up stores nowadays, and good luck to them, but they get like $50,000 backing, and they buy a whole stock of brand new pressings, and they fill the store. That's great. That's not how I started. I started out very small and learned my lessons when they were in my first year, I sold a record worth $1,500 for $10 because it was a learning process, but I learned my lessons without failing fantastically, in some ways, but I was able to like grow it at the same rate that I grew personally, you know what I mean? Because it would have been overwhelming for me to try to start out big at that time. I was easily overwhelmed. So I think it's exactly what I was supposed to be doing. 150, they're not all valuable, but I do have rare stuff. That's the thing. I could put these online and they would probably be sold immediately. But I like having the kind of store that people walk in, they say, wow, I can't believe he's got that rare Metallica, but it's $200. It's a lot of money, but he's got it. I've never seen one, People come in and they say, wow, I can't believe you have it. And maybe they will bring me in a pile of stuff to trade for.
No matter what you listen to or what you're collecting. If you collect to spend time on your own, or if you collect to be social. If you just started your collection, or if you inherited your collection. If you've been collecting for a really long time. Bags Unlimited has been there since 1976 to protect America's collections. And we hope you'll join us for our new series, Our Shared Stories, the story of America's collectors, with Bags Unlimited.